This week, America continues our aggressive effort to defeat the virus. As we enter a
Luchando
crucial and
enérgicamente para
difficult
derrotar el
phase
virus.
of the battle,
Estamos entrando a una fase crucial de la batalla. Seguimos orando por la gente de Nueva York, Nueva Jersey y por todo el país. Pero en este momento Nueva York y New Jersey son una zona de urgencia. Su lucha es nuestra lucha. Vamos a derrotar a este virus, lo vamos a hacer juntos. También quiero enviar nuestros mejores deseos a un buen amigo mío y a un amigo de nuestra nación, el primer ministro Boris Johnson. Nos entristece saber que fue sometido a terapia intensiva esta tarde. Los estadounidenses oramos por su recuperación. Él ha sido un excelente amigo. Es un hombre que no se rinde, es un luchador. Hemos progresado mucho en cuestión de terapias, hablaremos de eso más adelante. Y le he pedido a dos de las principales empresas muy destacadas en la lucha contra el ébola, SIDA y otras enfermedades. Han hecho un trabajo increíble y les he pedido que se pongan en contacto con Londres. Tienen oficinas allí. Son realmente unos genios, realmente unos genios. Hablé con 4 de estas personas hoy. Hablan un lenguaje que mucha gente no entiende. Yo entiendo algo. Son empresas muy avanzadas en el aspecto terapéutico y ya tienen presencia en Londres. Tienen allí todo lo necesario. Vamos a ver en qué podemos ayudar a los médicos de Boris. Vamos a ver qué sucede, pero están listos. Pero cuando a alguien lo llevan a terapia intensiva, la situación es delicada, especialmente con esta enfermedad. Las dos empresas tienen presencia allí y están hablando de eso. Es una situación compleja. Estamos trabajando con la Dirección de Alimentos y Medicinas y con otra gente, pero también con Londres en lo que concierne a Boris Johnson. En nuestro país estamos atacando al enemigo en todos los frentes, en el ámbito médico, científico, social, logístico y económico. Estamos poniendo en acción todo el poder del gobierno estadounidense, de nuestras empresas, de nuestras Fuerzas Armadas, que han sido increíbles. Enviamos 3.000 efectivos de salud pública, están en la zona de Nueva York, estarán en el centro Javits, en nuestro barco, y como habrán escuchado, me informaron que el gobernador Cuomo ya anunció que me había llamado más temprano y quería saber si era posible usar el barco para incorporarlo a la lucha contra el virus. Esa no era la idea original, pero lo vamos a hacer y vamos a dejar también que Nueva Jersey, hablamos con el gobernador Murphy, y Nueva Jersey también va a usar este recurso porque también es en este momento un punto candente con este brote. Así que van a estar utilizando el barco en Nueva York, Nueva Jersey. Están preparados para luchar contra el COVID y ojalá eso sea de mucha utilidad para ambos estados. El centro Javits, que tiene 2.900 camas, construido por nuestras Fuerzas Armadas, ya está listo para entrar en acción y una cantidad considerable de pacientes irán al centro Javits. Esto será excepcional y agradecemos las cordiales declaraciones de los gobernadores Cuomo y Murphy. Hemos trabajado muy bien con ambos y francamente con todos los gobernadores. El vicepresidente Pence tuvo una llamada esta mañana con ellos. Fueron casi 2 horas. Entiendo que no hubo una sola persona negativa en la llamada. Unos 50 gobernadores, según entendí, estaban todos y fueron muy positivos en todos los aspectos. por lo que el gobierno federal ha estado haciendo, y realmente es algo sorprendente. El cuerpo de ingenieros está construyendo 22 hospitales de campaña por todo el país y centros alternativos de cuidado en 18 estados. Así que tenemos una combinación de 22 hospitales de campaña, centros de cuidado alterno, una versión más pequeña del hospital, y tenemos muchos de estos en 18 estados. En total tenemos 8.450 unidades. Se han entregado más de 8.000 respiradores de la Reserva Nacional a ciudades y estados, bajo el amparo de la Ley de Producción para la Defensa. Es un instrumento tan poderoso que no hay que invocarlo con mucha frecuencia. En la mayoría de los casos hemos conseguido mucho más de lo que queríamos pedir. Las empresas estadounidenses realmente están respondiendo y ahora están construyendo miles de respiradores, y hay centenares que están siendo enviados a distintos lugares, y ya tenemos unos 10.000 listos para ser movilizados. Lo que me refiero con esto es justamente que donde quiera que vaya este monstruo, podremos movilizar recursos con muchísima flexibilidad. Y tenemos gente preparada, lista y dispuesta para entrar en acción si es necesario. Es posible que no sea así, pero tenemos esta reserva porque estamos recibiendo cifras que sugieren que por lo que está haciendo la población se está aminorando la necesidad hospitalaria. Menos hospitales, menos camas, menos respiradores. Así que vamos a ver si nos mantenemos de acuerdo a las proyecciones originales. Así que conversamos con ambos gobernadores, están satisfechos, muy satisfechos con lo que estamos haciendo, especialmente en cuanto al COVID. FEMA y el Departamento de Salud y Servicios Sociales han distribuido directamente más de 8.700.000 millones de mascarillas, 20 millones de máscaras quirúrgicas, escudos faciales, 4.000 batas quirúrgicas y 22.600.000 pares de guantes. También estamos preparados para distribuir material adicional proveniente de donaciones. Tenemos una vasta cantidad de material, suministros médicos en el país, y a través del programa de puente aéreo estamos llevando cargamentos con suministros vitales desde el extranjero a distintos lugares de Estados Unidos. Esos son unos aviones enormes, por cierto. Son unidades con muchísima capacidad y vienen totalmente repletos de suministros, pero van directamente a donde estos suministros son más necesarios, lo que nos permite ahorrar tiempo. Debido a las medidas que tomé bajo la Ley de Producción para la Defensa, llegamos a un acuerdo cordial con 3M para la entrega de más de 55 millones de mascarillas faciales por mes. Así que en el próximo mes tendremos más de 166 millones de mascarillas para nuestro personal de primera línea. Así que las fricciones con 3M se quedaron atrás de manera cordial. Hablé con Mike Roman, le di las gracias por resolver la situación y él estaba muy satisfecho de hacerlo. Es una gran empresa, así que estamos recibiendo estos millones de mascarillas que estarán destinadas a nuestro personal de primera línea. Gracias, Trian. También le quiero agradecer a una gran empresa estadounidense, Apple, que realmente se ha puesto en acción. Anunciaron que están produciendo escudos faciales a razón de 1 millón por semana. Y estas cubiertas que ven en televisión son de la más alta calidad y seguridad. También estamos muy agradecidos de Salesforce, que ha donado 48 millones de unidades de equipo de protección personal, incluyendo mascarillas, batas, trajes y escudos faciales. Insto a todos los gobernadores de la nación a asegurarse que estos suministros que están siendo enviados a sus estados sean distribuidos con la mayor celeridad posible. Estamos trabajando muy bien con los gobernadores. A lo mejor cuando los ven ustedes digan que no están tan satisfechos, pero por teléfono están todos muy satisfechos. Mike Pence es un tipo que habla muy directo con ellos y se mostraban dispuestos. ¿Hubo alguna reacción negativa? No, señor. Se los dije. Mike es maravilloso. Y Mike, has hecho un excelente trabajo y tanto yo como el país entero lo apreciamos. Todo el mundo aprecia lo que está haciendo Mike. Es un hombre muy especial. Muchas de las cosas que hemos hecho van directamente a los estados. Si no es así, nos pueden llamar directamente a mí o a Mike y lo vamos a ayudar. Lo más importante es que se está progresando antes de que llegue la oleada dura, porque en una semana o semana y media, esto es lo que nos dicen los pronósticos de los expertos, que vamos a tener una semana difícil. Estamos movilizando múltiples recursos a diferentes lugares, especialmente donde se prevé que se vaya a dar el repunte. Estos recursos tienen que llegar a nuestros guerreros. Y siempre los describo así. Estas son gente en su mayoría joven que va a los hospitales. Apenas abren las puertas, ellos entran y se aprestan para hacer su labor y se ponen su ropa protectora y no es una situación segura para ellos, pero esto es como ver una película de guerra. Cuando uno ve a los soldados en acción, hombres, mujeres, algunos más jóvenes que otros, pero no dicen, caray, esto es peligroso, yo no quiero correr riesgo. No, estos son guerreros que acuden sin vacilar. Realmente es hermoso. Recursos de la Reserva Nacional tienen que llegar a estos guerreros en los hospitales de inmediato y nos vamos a asegurar de eso. Y los estados tienen una responsabilidad, pero estamos trabajando con los estados y les estamos haciendo llegar muchísimos suministros que ellos pueden distribuir o que podemos enviar directamente de la Reserva Federal o incluso directamente desde los aviones sin tener que pasar por centros de acopio. Los estados que tengan problemas los instamos a utilizar a la Guardia Nacional para que les ayude con la distribución y debo decir que ustedes han hecho un trabajo fabuloso. Qué trabajo tan excelente están haciendo. Realmente se los agradezco a todo el grupo. Bueno, cuando se tienen 4 estrellas en el uniforme hay que hacer un buen trabajo. Las Fuerzas Armadas han sido increíbles. Y les doy las gracias en nombre de todos. Si un Estado piensa que tiene excedentes, y esto es muy importante, hay estados que han hecho un trabajo excelente y han limitado el consumo. Así que hay estados que tienen excedentes de equipo, de suministros. Están trabajando con nosotros para redistribuir estos suministros a las zonas de mayor necesidad. Pensamos que podía ser así y se está dando. Le quiero agradecer al gobernador Gavin Newsom, un excelente trabajo. Anunció que California iba a enviar 500 respiradores para ser distribuidos a otras localidades. Algunos irán a Arizona, otros a la ciudad de Washington, posiblemente a Delaware. Estamos trabajando en eso, pero 500 ventiladores que saldrán del estado de California y nos vamos a encargar de que lleguen a donde tengan que ir. La decisión se está tomando en este momento. Los miembros de la Fuerza de Tareas de la Casa Blanca y yo estamos en contacto con los alcaldes, gobernadores, hospitales, administradores hospitalarios de todo el país. Y en este momento, la mayoría de las necesidades cruciales están siendo satisfechas. Los estados tienen que seguir compartiendo información detallada sobre el uso de suministros médicos para poder reabastecerlos, o los pueden obtener directamente. Eso incluye hasta los respiradores. En un mundo ideal sería perfecto, pero si no pueden, tenemos muchos suministros que podemos enviar. Esta información es fundamental para que podamos entregar el material cuando y donde sea más necesario. Mike, en sus conversaciones de hoy, recibió alguna información sobre un par de localidades a donde enviaremos un gran número de respiradores y de suministros médicos. Pero algunos de los estados están muy satisfechos. Hasta el gobernador Pritzker de Illinois quizá no esté muy contento cuando habla con la prensa, pero se mostró satisfecho. También estamos muy satisfechos que la estrategia de mitigación que hemos adoptado esté ayudando. El mayor número de casos que tenemos en este momento con los que estamos lidiando, vemos una merma gracias al excelente trabajo de...
En vivo, Noticiero Telemundo Houston a las 5. Comienza ya.
And
Amigos, bien.
a lot of people are working hard. Everybody's working hard. A lot of people are doing a great job. Tell you that. A lot of people are doing a great job. But the goal is that all Americans have been sacrificing to achieve these last few weeks, things that a lot of people thought were not possible to achieve. And I think we've more than achieved, but we have to go through. Again, we're going to have a rough week. We're going to have maybe a rough, little more than a week.
Lo hemos hecho, pero vamos a tener unos días, quizá más de una semana, que van a ser difíciles, pero hay una gran luz al final del túnel, con terapias, con vacunas, cosas que queremos desarrollar. Deborah y Tony están trabajando muy duro en todo esto. Las vacunas siempre se demoran por el necesario periodo de pruebas, pero hablando con estas excelentes compañías y personas, realmente es alentador. También hablé hace poco con el ex vicepresidente Biden. Tuvimos una excelente y cálida conversación. Hablamos fundamentalmente de este tema. Él me dio su opinión. Tuvimos una conversación cordial, muy cordial. Duraría unos 15 minutos y fue positivo. Le agradezco la llamada. Seguimos trabajando en tratamientos y buscando curas. He hablado con líderes de empresas farmacéuticas de Estados Unidos, Amgen, Genentech, Gilead, Regeneron, 4 de las mejores empresas de su tipo en el mundo, y en este momento hay 10 agentes terapéuticos en pruebas activas y algunos lucen sumamente prometedores, pero hay que seguir el proceso. Esperamos que sea un proceso rápido, por lo que me dice la Dirección de Alimentos y Medicinas. y hay otros 15 para entrar en fase de pruebas clínicas. Hoy una segunda empresa anunció que había recibido autorización para una potencial vacuna para iniciar pruebas clínicas. Johnson & Johnson ya lo está haciendo y ahora tenemos una segunda empresa que acaba de anunciar este proceso que obtuvo la aprobación. Así que tenemos a 2 empresas ya trabajando en pos de una vacuna. Tenemos 1.790.000 exámenes procesados en todo el país y creo que vamos a tener unas gráficas por acá. Y aquí está. Este es el proceso que comenzó el 5 de marzo y está ahí ahora. Y hay un repunte considerable. Nadie ha hecho más pruebas. Y una de las razones por las que dicen esto, una razón por la que tenemos un mayor registro de casos es porque estamos haciendo más pruebas. Así que haciendo estas pruebas, obviamente detectamos los casos. Tenemos un número más elevado porque estamos haciendo más pruebas. Si no, uno no se enteraría. Ahora hemos hecho 1.790.000 exámenes en todo el país, más que en cualquier otra nación del mundo. Por lo tanto, el registro de casos es considerable. La cifra aumentó en 125.000 personas por día. Hablábamos del caso de Corea del Sur. Este es un proceso muy rápido. CBS está lanzando 2 centros de pruebas desde el auto en Rhode Island y en Atlanta. Podrán hacerle pruebas a más de 1.000 personas por día con el examen rápido o ultra rápido y muy preciso desarrollado por los laboratorios Abbott. También estamos agilizando la entrega de alivio para los trabajadores estadounidenses. Hasta el momento, decenas de miles de pequeños negocios han solicitado fondos bajo el programa de protección de salarios. Ha ido funcionando muy bien. Algunos tropiezos menores ya se han resuelto. Estos fondos se traducirán en la protección de más de 2 millones de empleos. Casi 3.000 prestamistas ya han aprobado préstamos y estamos incorporando más. Los bancos comunitarios han respondido muy bien y los bancos grandes también están colaborando en este proceso. Esto está avanzando muy rápidamente con los pequeños negocios y si llegáramos a quedarnos sin recursos, pediríamos un crédito adicional al Congreso. Los bancos se han portado muy bien. Bank of America respondió de inmediato. JP Morgan Chase también. Y muchos de los bancos grandes, los bancos comunitarios han sido fantásticos. Como anunciamos la semana pasada, estamos aprobando más de 100.000 millones de dólares para hospitales. Y debo decir otra cosa, nuestros agricultores, como saben, desde el 1 de abril entró en vigor el acuerdo con China. Están comprando miles de millones de dólares en productos y unos 50.000 millones pasarán a nuestros agricultores. Esto comenzó el 1 de abril. Vamos a ver cómo funciona. Están comprando y les dejaremos saber cómo avanza todo esto. Pero están adquiriendo millones de dólares en productos agrícolas y eso tendrá un enorme impacto en nuestro sector agrícola. Estamos muy atentos a eso. En la guerra médica hemos movilizado la inquebrantable fortaleza del ingenio, la determinación y compasión de Estados Unidos. Y lo puedo ver cuando hablo con estas empresas científicas, más que farmacéuticas, como digo yo, porque vemos distintas entidades haciendo generosos donativos, mucha gente lo está haciendo. Hemos visto estados y ciudades apoyándose mutuamente, protegiendo a nuestros ciudadanos, y vemos que estadounidenses de todos los sectores se están uniendo para responder a estos retos y ponerse a la altura de las circunstancias. Nos hemos sentido inspirados por la valentía del personal médico y paramédico, que son los soldados en esta guerra. No hay palabras para expresar por completo nuestro agradecimiento hacia estos héroes. Un paciente en Cleveland decía que el equipo médico no solamente los salvó con sus destrezas, sino que le cambiaron la vida con el ejemplo de generosidad de su parte. Y él hablaba de su valentía en un área tan compleja, donde hay gente que está muriendo, y él hablaba del valor de esta gente. Otro sobreviviente en Houston decía que considerará a estas personas sus ángeles para siempre. A medida que nuestra nación está también de luto por los que hemos perdido, estamos muy agradecidos por estos estadounidenses que con amor y dedicación y coraje están ayudando a sus compatriotas. Vamos a ganar esta guerra y vamos a salir fortalecidos con mayor determinación. Y eso es lo que estamos viendo. Muchas historias inspiradoras en medio de este momento tan difícil para el mundo. Ya pasamos de 150, 160, ya son 182 los países afectados por este virus. Así que les quiero dar las gracias a todos, a los ciudadanos estadounidenses, por hacer un excelente trabajo. Quédense en casa. Vamos a ganar esta lucha para reabrir el país lo más pronto posible. Las cosas marchan bien, pero nuevamente ya hay luz al final del túnel. Voy a responder algunas preguntas y luego Mike se hará cargo del resto. Hablarán con el almirante y los profesionales. Les agradezco que hayan venido acá.
De la Casa Blanca entramos de lleno en la información.
A lot of experience with having to do with something else, but recent for this. And they'll be, they've already concurred, they've already had meetings with the doctors, and we'll see whether or not they want to go that route. But when you're in intensive care, it's a big deal. So they're there and they're ready. I think we have three of them. I spoke with four, you know who the four would be. And, you know, the people within those, you'd know the companies, I told you the companies, but the people are the greatest in the world. So they're at the hospital, and we'll see. And they have everything with them should it be needed. Hopefully it won't have to be needed, but should it be needed. I found Boris to be a fantastic person, just like a fantastic, warm, strong, smart guy. He loves his country. You see that? I mean, he fought like hell for his country. And intensive care is big stuff, really big stuff.
Yesterday you were asked about this as well, but now that he's been moved to intensive care, does the Vice President any pause or additional concerns, steps that you're taking to preserve the continuity of government here?
No, I don't think so. Mike had his test a couple of days ago. I had my test a couple of days ago. So, and we're here, and here you are. So, no, I don't think so. But I think we'll probably... his name.
I don't know his name off the top
Find me
of my
his name,
head.
let me know, okay? If
But-
you find me his name, I'd appreciate it.
But sir, these are hospitals
All I can tell
that
you
do
is
not-
this, we
sir,
put up on the
these
board,
hospitals-
you're gonna ask the Admiral, but
These are
we are
hospitals
doing,
who say that they're waiting a week or longer
Fine.
to get
You'll
their
speak to
test
the Admiral.
results. Why
but
is
we've
it
done
still
more
taking so
testing
long?
and had more results than any country anywhere in the world. They're doing an incredible job. Now they're all calling us, they want our testing. What are we doing? How do you do the 5-minute test? How do you do the 15-minute test? So give me the name of the Inspector General Could politics be entered into that? Go ahead,
This
please.
is our,
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Are you worried about retaliation to your decision to ban export of medical goods, like Indian Prime Minister Modi's decision to not export hydroxychloroquine to the United States and other countries?
I don't like that decision. If that's, I didn't hear that that was his decision. I know that he stopped it for other countries. I spoke to him yesterday. We had a very good talk, and we'll see whether or not that's his. I would be surprised if he would, because India does very well with the United States. For many years, they've been taking advantage of the United States on trade. So I would be surprised if that were his decision. He'd have to tell me that. I spoke to him Sunday morning, called him, and I said, we'd appreciate your allowing our supply to come out. If he doesn't allow it to come out, that would be okay. But of course, there may be retaliation. Why wouldn't there be? Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Paycheck Protection Program has gotten off to a confusing start for small
I don't
businesses
think so. I think it's done very well.
Wells Fargo has stopped taking applications. Bank of America
Not
initially
anymore, they haven't.
prioritized taking applications from clients that were already
Bank of
borrowers.
America has
So-
been the leader, taking tremendous numbers of applications. And of course, there may have been, they wanted to have a slightly different application. They wanted to have a little different information. But Bank of America has been a leader. They're number one in terms of applications. I wish you'd ask the question differently. Why don't you say it's gotten off to a tremendous start, but there are some little glitches, which, by the way, have been worked out. It would be so much nicer if you do that. But you're just incapable of asking a question
Sir, what
in a
oversight
positive
measures
way.
is the federal government
It's
putting
already
in
done.
place
It's already
to
done.
ensure that there is
It's taken the
fairness?
measures. It's taken the measures. And we may even do a different system, not with this. We're going to have to probably add more money to this to save and to keep our small businesses going and to keep the employees of those small businesses working. But it's such a positive event, and you ask it in such a negative way. It just, I wish we had a fair media in this country, and we really don't. Speaking of unfair, go ahead.
Mr. President, the acting Secretary of the Navy told the crew of the USS Roosevelt that Captain Crozier was either, quote, too naive or too stupid to be in command. Is it appropriate for the Chief Officer of the Navy to be speaking this way about this captain? Is this
Well, I
the
haven't
right
heard
way-
it exactly. I haven't heard. I heard they had a statement that was made. If that were the statement, it's a strong statement. Look, the letters shouldn't have been sent, and certainly they shouldn't have been leaked. This is a military operation. I must tell you, I've heard very good things about the gentlemen, both gentlemen, by the way. I will say this about both gentlemen. And I may look into it only from the standpoint that something should be resolved, because I'm hearing good things about both people.
What might you look into, sir?
I may just get involved, if it's okay with you.
What do you mean you
Yeah,
might?
because you know what? You have two good people, and they're arguing. And I'm good, believe it or not, at settling arguments. I'm good at settling these arguments. So I may look into it in great detail, and I'll be able to figure it out very fast. But that was a statement. It's a rough statement, but look,
Reinstate him
look,
if you
look.
decide it was-
Letters should not have been sent to many people, unclassified. That was a mistake. It's a mistake that shouldn't have been made, because it's unfair to the families of the people on the ship because they get nervous, and it shows weakness. And there's nothing weak about us now, not anymore. We have the strongest military we've ever had, and we're not going to be showing weakness to anybody, because we have, that ship is incredible, nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, and we don't want to be writing letters. We don't want to have letter writing campaigns where the fake news finds a letter or gets a leak. We don't want that. So the letter, so the letter shouldn't have been sent. With all of that said, his career prior to that was very good. So I'm going to get involved and see exactly what's going on there, because I don't want to destroy somebody for having a bad day. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Yeah.
Mr. President, Vice President Biden's spokesperson said that he made some suggestions to you about actions that you could be taking to
He
deal
did.
with the
He
pandemic.
did. We had a very good talk. We agreed that we weren't going to talk about what we said, but we had a very, very good talk. It was a warm talk. I enjoyed it. I hope he enjoyed it too. And it was short. It was 15 minutes.
Did he have good suggestions? Anything that you're going to do?
Well, he had suggestions. It doesn't mean that I agree with those suggestions, but certainly he had suggestions. And I also told him some of the things we're doing. But the conversation was a friendly, very friendly conversation. Yeah, please.
Thanks a lot, Mr. President. You've mentioned, other members of your task force have mentioned over the course of the next 2 weeks, it's going to be a very difficult time for our country in terms of fatalities. And
It will be a difficult week and a half.
And there are a number of governors who are close allies of yours, Mr. President, who have refrained thus far to have these stay-at-home orders. And Dr. Fauci, who of course is on your task force, has said that the states that don't have stay-at-home orders are putting themselves at risk and the country
Well,
at risk.
if Dr. Fauci said that, I would be inclined to call them up. You know, we do have a constitutional problem in doing that. You understand that. I mean, there's a double-edged sword. You understand. I can do it, but it is a constitutional. You can say federalist. You can say there's lots of different reasons where I would rather have the governors do it, make their own determination. They're smaller, and not in all cases, but sort of they're smaller cases. But I'm not sure 100% that Dr. Fauci said that, but you can ask him. Tony, you want to say something, please?
So I had good conversations with the governor of Nebraska and the governor of Iowa here, and it's interesting that functionally, even though they have not given a strict stay-at-home, what they are doing is really functionally equivalent to that. And we had a really good conversation with both of the governors, and when I had mentioned that, I think there was a public response that they weren't really doing anything at all, and they really are doing a very good job, both of them. Those are the only two that I spoke to, but it was a really good conversation, and I want to make sure people understand that just because they don't have a very strict stay-at-home order, they have in place a lot of things that are totally compatible with what everyone else is doing.
If I could ask a question, Dr. Fauci, before you...
Go ahead.
About getting back to normal, you said you wanted to get back to normal as soon as possible. Will we truly get back to normal in this country before there's an actual vaccine that's available to everybody? How do you start lifting the restrictions?
Yeah, well, John, if back to normal means acting like there never was a coronavirus problem, I don't think that's going to happen until we do have a situation where you can completely protect the population. But when we say getting back to normal, we mean something very different from what we're going through right now. Because right now we are in a very intense mitigation. When we get back to normal, we will go back gradually to the point where we can function as a society. But you're absolutely right. I mean, if you want to get to pre-coronavirus, you know, that might not ever happen in the sense of the fact that the threat is there. But I believe with the therapies that will be coming online and with the fact that I feel confident that over a period of time we will get a good vaccine, that we will never have to get back to where we are right back now. So if that means getting back to normal, then we'll get back to normal.
I think that with the therapies, and I think that with the vaccines, which I have total confidence are coming, and I'm dealing with the companies. I'm talking to Johnson & Johnson. I'm talking to all of them. I think that when you add the tremendous stimulus that we're giving, like, for instance, deductibility for restaurant expenses for restaurants and entertainment, the money that we're talking about for small businesses and employees to keep everybody working, and other things that we're frankly working on right now, which are going to be great for our people. I think when you add that to it, I think we can get more than back to normal from an economic standpoint, actually be better, but more than back to normal. But I would agree that we'd love to see a vaccine, but immediately would love to see a therapeutic. And I think we're getting very close.
Do you think you'll be able to lift restrictions on April 30th right now?
I don't want to comment on that, but I can tell you that we certainly want to try. We certainly want to see what's going on. We're doing very well. Look, you look at those. You look at most places where that, you can call it the bump, you can call it the hill, you can call it the mountain, you can call it whatever you want to do it. It's very flat. You take a look, and that was done through mitigation. That was done through a lot of good work, and that far exceeded our expectations before. I mean, people can't even believe how low some of those bumps are, some of those hills are. They're very surprised. Now, you have a couple of tough ones. New Jersey's been very tough, and New York has been very tough. They're crowded in, it's tight, it's tougher. But far exceeding, California far exceeds, Washington State far exceeds. You look at so many of these states, how well they're doing. The 8 states, by the way, and I haven't spoken to the governors, but Tony's so right. They may not have it from the standpoint that they're saying it, but those people are practicing it, and they're doing a fantastic job. Take a look at where they are in terms of the levels, but take a look where they are. So But if I thought it was something that, and I've looked at him, and I've looked at him very carefully, looked at him today, looked at him yesterday, from a constitutional standpoint, I'd love not to get involved with that. And not from a legal standpoint, just from a moral, constitutional standpoint. Because legally, I can. But morally, I believe in our Constitution, much more so than most people. And I'd love to be able to let the governors do what they have to do. Those states are doing a fantastic job, all 8 of them. They're doing a fantastic job. So we'll see what happens. As per your question, you fully understand what I'm saying, so thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, I have 2 questions, if I may, one from somebody outside the room. But first, Castigan, do you think Boris Johnson, when he talked about shaking hands with hospital patients, did he downplay the threat of this virus too much? And do you know exactly what his current
Well, I think
position is?
Boris was looking at it differently. He was looking at it earlier. He was looking at it like ride it out. There were many people thinking about riding it out, meaning, whatever it is. But then you see what starts to happen, and the numbers become monumental, and they decide not to do that. We actually moved early. We moved early because of what we did with respect to the ban on China coming in, and then Europe coming in. That was an early ban, too. And then UK. No, he waited a little while, and he felt that, but he got, he made a decision very quickly thereafter to do what they did, and they've gone to a very strict lockdown. But they're suffering greatly as a nation right now. They're going through a lot. They're a nation that's having a difficult time. But I've gotten to know him. He's just such an incredible guy. It was just so shocking to see that, because you know what that means. Intensive care is a big deal with regard to what we're talking about. That's a very big deal, very scary deal. Yeah, please, Jeff.
Just somebody who can't be in the room due to social distancing has asked me to ask a question. It's Thomas Howell of the Washington Times. How many health workers in the US have become infected with COVID-19? And if the answer is not known, will the CDC be publishing that data
Yeah, I
soon?
could get you that information. I think they'd probably be willing to give that, right? Yeah, we could get you that information. Jeff, please.
Mr. President, OPEC is meeting on Thursday, and they have said that they are willing to make a cut in production if the U.S. chips in as well, which suggests that they want you to ask U.S. producers to do an
Well, you're the first
orchestrated
one that's
cut.
told me that. I don't know. We'll have to make that decision. And maybe we will, maybe we won't, but we'll have to make that decision.
But you would-
I think the cuts are automatic. If you're a believer in markets, I can guarantee you there's a cut from pre this condition. Look, this happened because of the virus. The virus knocked out 40%. It went down in 1 hour. I mean, literally, when places closed up, you're talking about a 40% cut. No, I think it's happening automatically, but nobody's asked me that question yet, so we'll see what happens.
But you would
I'll let you know Thursday evening.
All right, that's the deal.
Okay.
But you would consider asking U.S. companies to
Well, I think it's
reduce...
automatic, because they're already cutting. I mean, if you look, they're cutting back, because it's market, it's demand, it's supply and demand. They're already cutting back, and they're cutting back very seriously.
But if OPEC is asking for a signal from
Well,
the
nobody's
US,
asked me that, so if they ask me, I'll make a decision. Okay? But again, it's happening anyway. Yes, please.
In light of all the discussion about Prime Minister Johnson and his health, can you update us on the status of the second half of your physical that you were going to have this year?
Yeah, so I had a physical. The first half was very successful. I did it on a day when I was in the White House, and we were able to do that, as the doctor reported. And I have the second half of the physical different. Probably is done at Walter Reed, and I'll do that at the appropriate time, but I feel very good, and according to the doctor, very good shape.
And can I just ask you again on the idea of a national stay-at-home recommendation? What is giving you so much pause about making a recommendation?
I told you. He understood very well. I appreciate your understanding.
But it's not an order,
It's called
just a
the Constitution of
recommendation.
the United States, and I'd rather have, if possible, for the governors to make the decision. If a decision was very necessary, and they have done a good job, and Tony said it better than anybody, they are doing what we're asking them to do without having to put the seal on it. But I will say, if I thought it was necessary, I'll do it in a heartbeat.
Do you agree with the Georgia governor opening the beaches?
Opening what?
The beaches?
I haven't seen. I'm going to have to see to what extent. I'm going to have to see how many people you're talking about. Are they crowded? Are they packed? Are they not packed? We'll have to take a look at it. Right now, it's very early for beaches in Georgia. So it's right now, very early, so I'll take a look at it. He's done a very good job as the governor. He knows what he's doing, but we'll have to take a look. It really does depend on, how crowded it may be. But I will talk to him and I will ask him that question. I would ask him, yeah, please.
Mr. President, you said last week that you were considering travel restrictions around hotspots. Is that something that's still on the table, and at what point?
We're looking at it, and the airlines have been cutting their routes. You saw that yesterday. They announced big cuts in routes. We need some flights for emergency use for military people. We need some flights for medical people, and there are very few flights, as you know. And the flights that are going out are, I think they said they're 3 to 4% full. You have 3% of the plane is occupied, so it's they're very generally very empty planes. But it's good to have. It's a tiny amount of flights relative to the overall, and we need them also for medical workers. Otherwise, we're going to have to do a whole big thing with our own planes. So they're done for a reason. There's also testing done when people get onto those planes, and also when people get off the planes.
If I can follow up on this question of the HHS Inspector General, and by the way, her name was Christy Grimm, and it wasn't so much her opinion, but they interviewed 323 different hospitals.
Well, it still could be her opinion. When was she appointed? When was she appointed?
I'm not sure when she was
Would
appointed.
you do me a favor? Let me know.
I'll check.
No,
on
let me know now. I have to know now, John. Let me know now. Because we are doing an incredible job in testing. We are doing a better job than anybody in the world right now in testing. There's nobody close. And other nations admit this. Other nations have admitted it very strongly. Other nations are calling us, wanting to know about our testing. Let me know when she was appointed, would you?
Specifically,
Go ahead,
what
please.
she was saying was that there had been a delay in the
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. President. Only last week, there were multiple flights coming from China full of medical supplies.
Yes.
Companies like Huawei and Alibaba has been donating to
Right.
the United States
People I know very well.
1.5 million N95 masks, and also a lot of medical gloves and much more medical supplies.
Sounds like a statement more than a question.
And Chinese Ambassador Cui Tiankai last night wrote an op-ed on New York Times calling to cooperation with the United States. So are you personally working directly with China?
We just signed a trade deal.
Also fighting with the
It's
virus?
the biggest deal probably ever made. And I hope they're going to honor that trade deal. If they don't honor the trade deal, then I'll tell you a different answer. But I think they will. They're going to spend billions of dollars for agriculture. They're going to spend billions of dollars for many different things. Whereas China
medical
never spent
supplies.
money in our country. We spent money. We had a deficit, a trade deficit with China for years of $500 billion, $400 billion. We had the biggest trade deficits in the history of the world with China. Now China's going to spend a lot, has agreed to spend $250 billion, many billions of dollars in our country, much of it going to farmers and manufacturers. So I'll let you know. I mean, I hope they're going to honor the deal. We'll find
with
out.
China, are you cooperating with
I don't
China?
know. Who are you working for, China? You work for
I'm
China, or are
working
you with a
for Hong
newspaper?
Kong.
Who are you with?
Hong Kong Phoenix TV.
Who owns that, China?
It's
Is it owned by
based in
China?
Hong Kong.
No, is it owned by the state?
No, it's not. It's a private-owned company.
Okay, good. Okay. Look, I'll let you know. I'll give you a good answer to that in a few months. I wanted to see what they do. Because it's time for them to help us, okay? It's time right now for China to help us. And hopefully they do. And if they don't, that's okay too. But we signed a deal. It was signed with great goodwill and spirit. And it's time that our farmers benefited, our manufacturers benefited, and we'll see whether or not that deal is honored. And I think it will be, because I know President Xi, who I like and respect, and I think he will honor the deal he made with us. It just went into effect 4 days ago. I will see whether or not. In fact, I called up just a little while ago. I said, how are the farmers doing with respect to China? Are they buying the product as anticipated? And the answer was, yeah, I think so. But it wasn't the most positive, but it was starting. The deal just started. So I'll let you know. But, for many, many years, China ate our lunch because we had people in this position that I'm in right now that allowed China to get away with absolute murder and it should have
The
never happened.
coronavirus.
But we are now dealing with China. We'll see what happens. Yeah, please.
Mr. President,
Wait.
I'll tell you
How
when
many
she
do
was
you want?
appointed.
How many do you want to ask?
So I was going to answer your question you asked me. She was appointed in January of this year to her current position
Good.
as the Principal Deputy Inspector
Okay,
General.
we're going to take a look at it. Go ahead.
I know you don't want to talk
On the
Don't-
issue
don't
of
interrupt. He's
on the issue
talking.
of small business loans, sir, you said that businesses have applied for $40 billion in loans, but can you tell us how much of that money has actually gone out to the small businesses?
I can't tell you, but I know it goes out very quickly once the loan application's approved, and the process is very fast. And you have to understand, these are banks, and that's what they do, but they were swamped. They were actually swamped. Okay, go ahead.
I know you don't want to talk about the Inspector General report, but testing is still a big issue in this country. When can hospitals
Put the
expect?
slide up again, please.
When can
Just put it up.
hospitals expect to receive a quick turnaround of
Are you
these
ready?
test results?
Are you ready? Hospitals can do their own testing also. States can do their own testing. States are supposed to be doing testing. Hospitals are supposed to be doing testing. Do you understand that? We're the federal government. Listen to me. We're the federal government. We're not supposed to stand on street corners doing testing. They go to doctors. They go to hospitals. They go to the state. The state is a more localized government. You have 50 of them, and they can go 50 within here. You also have territories, as you know, and they do the testing. And if you look at the chart, if you take a look, did they put it up? Yeah, just take a look. And these are testing, and the results are now coming in very quickly. Initially speaking, the tests were old, obsolete, and not really prepared. We have a brand new testing system that we developed very quickly, and that's your result. And you should say, congratulations, great job, instead of being so horrid in the way you ask a question. Please, go ahead.
Mr. President, today.
Yeah, I'd love to have the Admiral speak to that question. Yes, it's a great idea.
So I can talk a little bit more about testing later on, but as the President said, 1.79 million tests have been done, and this does not count the hundreds of thousands of tests that are done within hospitals that are now currently not reporting, so I'm sure we're well over 2 million. That Inspector General report was done here, 23rd, 24th, during our ramp-up period, quite a long time ago. There was clearly, and it's hard to interpret the report because it mixes up all kinds of things, but clearly there was complaints by some hospitals of a backlog, probably at send-out tests, and that is true. There were several days of backlog at some of the major labs that have been taken care of. We know now that the ACLA labs now have a 24 to 48-hour turnaround. They're doing well over 100,000 tests a day. We now have the Abbott machine that's point of care. That's 18,000 of those instruments throughout the country. The Cepheid machine is now all across the country with a 45-minute turnaround. So we have worked directly with many of the hospitals that have their own laboratory-derived tests. Some of those really, quite frankly, didn't understand the regulatory freedom they have to use other different kinds of instruments or different kinds of reagents. So. Like they do now, and I'm on the phone with them all the time to make sure that everything is clear. We have a 24-hour call number, but that's what it was there for. And I don't know the Inspector General. I don't know that person. I tell you one thing I have a problem with. If there was such a problem that she knew about or he knew about on March 23rd and 24th, why did I find out about the tests from them on the news media at 8 o'clock this morning? If there was a problem, I think you're ethically obliged to tell me where that is so we can interact with it like I do every single day. But that's a discussion for the future. I think testing is really in a good position right now, and I'd be happy to expand on some of the really good tests that are coming up.
How long has that person been in government?
Did serve in the previous administration.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. Oh, I see. You didn't tell me that, John. You didn't tell me that. Did serve in the previous administration. You mean the Obama administration. Thank you for telling me that. See, there's a typical fake news deal.
You asked me when she was appointed. I told you when she was appointed.
You're a
by your
third-rate
administration.
reporter, and what you just said is a disgrace, okay? You asked me, you said, sir, just got appointed. Take a look at what you said now. I said, when did this person, how long in government? Well, it was appointed in the Obama administration. Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much. You will never make it. Go ahead, please.
On the ventilators,
Well,
maybe
that's a
this is best
terrible
for Admiral Jawar, but Can you tell us today how many ventilators are in the federal stockpile?
I'm not going to tell you how many are in the stockpile, but I can tell you that we look at ventilator use granularly every single day in every single state and down to the hospital level. So we have been able to meet and easily meet all the ventilator requirements that have been brought to us by the state. No one has not gotten a ventilator that needs a ventilator. And as far as we can project, looking at all models, every person who needs a ventilator will get a ventilator. I'm a ventilator doc, right? I'm an ICU physician for children. Spent every day of my life managing people on ventilators. This is my community. It's also the Surgeon General's community as an anesthesiologist. So what we have in the stockpile, I think, is not a number that we give out, but we have thousands remaining in the stockpile. And now you're seeing out of the appropriate American spirit that when a state like Washington or California doesn't need that ventilator, they're doing the right thing by moving them around the country.
It's about 9,000, just so you understand. That's right. It's about 9,000. And by the way, you didn't tell me also that this Inspector General came out of the Obama administration. You didn't tell me that either. Okay, please, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm looking, sir, just quickly here, I'm looking at this Inspector General's bio. She appears to have served in government since 1999, but I was hoping to ask you about your call with former Vice President Joe Biden. Is there something that you learned on that phone call, and has that changed your opinion?
No, I understood his views before the call.
Has that changed your opinion about speaking to people
I just think he's I think he's a nice man. I've always thought he was a nice man. I don't know him. I don't know if I ever spoke to him before, other than to say hello. But I think he's a nice man. We had a very nice call.
Do you want to seek now the counsel of some of your predecessors, George Bush,
No, but
Barack
we
Obama?
may, no, not really. We're doing a great job. Hey, this administration, we inherited a broken system, both militarily, where we've rebuilt our military, where we now have so much ammunition, where, as you remember, a very important general said, sir, we have no ammunition. They want to save money on ammunition. They didn't want to save money because they spent money like nobody ever spent money. But you know what? We now have a great military rebuilt, and we have so much ammunition, we don't know what to do with it, okay? And that's a nice feeling to have. But they also gave us empty cupboards. The cupboard was bare. You've heard the expression, the cupboard was bare. So we took over a stockpile where the cupboard was bare and where the testing system was broken and old. And we redid it. And frankly, it would be okay for a small event, but not for a big event. And they had a chance to do it. Somebody said that a certain person, I won't tell you, but a certain person said this will happen. And that's true. The problem is that person never did anything about it. Previous administrations, they never did anything about it. You know, we all know all about pandemics and all of the things that we're seeing now, but nobody thought it was going to happen. And if we did think it was going to happen, the problem is nobody did anything about it. We did. We have rebuilt the system, and now we're a fine-tuned machine. We built thousands of hotel beds for New York. We moved a ship in that now we're going to make for COVID-19. We are going to make it so that people having this horrible thing happen to them will be able to use the ship. The ship, as I said, is going to be shared with New Jersey, New York and New Jersey. We've done things that are incredible. When you build, 18 hospitals? We built 18 hospitals. We built medical centers all over the country. And when you have Gavin Newsom and other governors who really have been very nice and generous in their statements, because they make the statements to the press, not just to my face. Others tell us how great we're doing, like the call that Mike had today. I heard from other people that were on the call. He said it was incredible. It was 2 hours, and everything was positive. They were so happy with what we've done. And we're ready to do more if they need it, because we're ready to march. The Admiral can tell you, we are sitting there with 9,000 ventilators, and we're ready to march when we see that we can move very quickly. As soon as we see that need, we can move very quickly. We're ready to march. We built a great system. The problem is the Democrats, like a guy like Chuck Schumer, who's a total lightweight, by the way. I've known him for a long time. He'll say, why don't you put a military man in charge? Military man? I have all military men. This man is doing an incredible job. We have 2 admirals, numerous generals. We have the Army Corps of Engineers. We have FEMA. We have this whole force that like nobody's ever seen before. We have a great military operation, and they've done an incredible job. And honestly, people should respect, because nobody's ever seen anything like what we've done. And what they end up with, forget about me, don't worry about me. I will only get bad. If I say, how many ventilators do you need, Governor? 1,000 would be great. I said, nope, I'm going to send you 10,000. And then you'll call up from the media. You'll say, how did Trump do? We're not happy. He didn't send us enough ventilators. Because that's called politics. But if you look at what's happening, and I'm even surprised, the governors are saying all good things. But the Democrat governors, and a couple of rhinos, frankly, they're rhinos. That's all they are, one rhino in particular. But the governors are saying great things. He had a call that lasted 2 hours today. I heard about the call, not just from Mike. It was a perfect call. Now, I'm sure you were on the call, even though you're not supposed to be. I'm sure you were on the call, meaning some of the media was on the call, because they're constantly reporting the call. If they're honest, they will say it was a great call. Okay? Okay, next question, please.
Mr. President?
Here we go. Here we go.
You didn't mention the hospitals that were built in New Orleans and Dallas today, but you've mentioned them a number of times previously. There seems to be some concern in Texas that they might lose the hospital in Dallas if it's not
We're never going to do anything that hurts
if
Texas.
it's not used yet.
We're only helping Texas. By the way, the governor's doing a great job over there with this situation. And Texas is so big, you have some parts of the state that are affected, other parts that aren't affected at all. You know, it's an incredible place.
But can they keep this hospital even if it's unused? Or is the federal government going to shift those resources elsewhere?
No, we're going to use whatever we need, and we're doing it totally in conjunction with the governor. Okay? We're doing it in conjunction with your Texas governor, who's done a fantastic job. Great.
Governor Abbott also has set up checkpoints at the border to check people coming in from Louisiana. We've seen checkpoints in Florida, other state borders. Americans are not
Very
really,
few people are coming through our border, and you'll be happy to know we're up to mile 161 of the wall.
internal borders between states.
Oh, I see,
Americans
okay.
are not
But
used
on the
to
border
seeing-
between Mexico, we have 161 miles of wall.
About internal borders.
Okay.
Americans they're not used to seeing border checkpoints between states. How much longer, and is that something that states have to clear with you?
First, you want us to call 8 governors and tell them to do something. And then you're complaining that another governor is so strict that he actually checks the borders. I understand why he's doing that, because he knows who he has, and he doesn't want people coming in if they should maybe, not be to the liking of the doctors. No, I think look, he's done a great job. He's done a great job with this case, as have many other governors, but he's done a great job. One of the things I thought you were going to say is we've been very tough on our southern border, as you know, very, very tough. And part of that's because of the fact that we have so much, when you talk about 160 miles of new wall, nobody's coming through that, nobody, not even close. And we're building it rapidly. We will have, early next year, we'll have close to 500 miles of wall, which is what our goal was. Please, John.
You mentioned Senator Schumer just a moment ago. He had a conference call today, and he said that he believes that a COVID-4 relief bill will be necessary. Do you share that belief, and what would be contained in such a bill?
I don't know necessarily, but I certainly want to listen. And what I want to do is 2 things. A real infrastructure, not a Green New Deal, the carbon footprint. I'm not looking for the carbon footprint. We want to put people to work. But and frankly, for so many years, we've let our infrastructure go to hell because we were wasting all our money in the Middle East and other places, okay? I want to rebuild our country. I don't want to rebuild. We're tired. We've rebuilt, if you call it that. We're destroyed, frankly. What we've done is so crazy. What we have done, the direction that this country has taken is so sad. But we're in the Middle East for $8 trillion. And if you want to fix a pothole in a highway, you can't do it because they don't want to give you the funds. So we want to have an infrastructure bill, a real one, like in the vicinity of $2 trillion to completely rebuild our roads, our bridges, our highways, our tunnels, everything. And I'm totally open to listening to that. I'm also open to listening to and even putting forward, because we're going to be putting something forward, more money for our citizens because they've gone through trauma. This has been trauma. This came out of nowhere. And I say it, and I'll say it again, we had the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had the most people working in the history of our country, almost 160 million people, far more than ever before. And then one day, our professionals correctly came to us and they said, sorry, sir, we have to close down our country. And I said, say it again. Say it again. We have to close down our country. And the entire world closed down because of this hidden enemy. No, we're going to take good care of our people. It was not their fault.
Dr. Birx to clarify something that she said on Saturday,
Go
sir.
ahead. Yes, please.
May I ask Dr. Birx to clarify something that she said on Saturday? If I may, Dr. Birx, this is a question that comes from a radio colleague of mine, Tamara Keith. And on Saturday, it sounded like you said that for the next week, people in high-risk areas should not even go to the market or the drugstore. Is that what you meant to say, or is that accurate?
You know, out of respect for every single healthcare worker that's on the front line, whether they're a nurse, a doctor, a respiratory therapist, the phlebotomist, the persons who come in the rooms to clean, you know, out of respect for them, we as Americans should be doing everything possible. And what I meant was, if you can consolidate, if you can send one person, the entire family doesn't need to go out on these occasions. We really need, this is a highly transmittable virus. We've been saying that we want every American to know that what they're doing is making a difference, but we need to have solidarity of commitment from everyone to really, so, you know, maybe once every 2 weeks we can do a grocery store and pharmacy shop for the entire family. So it was really about, we have to do everything we can. I know I see on the TV stations the level of human suffering in the hospitals. Dr. Fauci and I and Admiral Giroir have spent our lives taking care of others. We need to take care of each other now as Americans and do everything that's in those guidelines. And I know they're tough. I know incredibly how tough they are. My grandchild of 10 months got a fever of 105 this weekend. I'm the doctor, and I couldn't get there. I mean, so I'm trying to explain to my daughter how to listen to her lungs, how to listen to her lungs,
So
and then the baby's lungs.
You did not get there?
I did not go there.
Good, I'm very happy with that.
Because of you two. I mean, when you can't take that kind of risk with the leaders of the country.
Your grandson's okay?
Daughter, but she's
That's
coming
a lot
out
of temperature, 105.
Yes. But, you know, we're all, and that's just an illustration that I know you all are making sacrifices, and I guess I want everyone to take this seriously. So that was really a call of seriousness of how important this is and how we're starting to see the impact, but you can see what can happen when you come at this a little bit too late. And that's why the message, before you see it, before you have to see your hospitals and your emergency rooms overwhelmed, it is on us as a member of this community, of this country, to do everything possible to save one another. And so that was really what I was saying, and I will continue to say that, because I do believe it's making a difference. You can start to see it making a difference, but we have to do even more right now, because that will predict where we are 2 or 3 weeks from now.
Thank you, Deborah. And it is making a big difference. I saw where Governor Cuomo was a little bit upset today over the weekend. A lot of people outside, and they were pretty big groups of people. I saw that. I noticed that, and he wasn't happy with that. And I could understand that. Look, we have a short period of time. Hopefully, it's a short period of time to go, and let's get it done. Let's get it done. Kristen, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Thank
You're
you.
so
Quick
quiet
follow to, just got here,
Because you have your own show.
yeah. Quick follow to the question about legislation. I know there's discussion about a phase 4, but are you also looking seriously at a second round of direct payments? And are you putting discussions on a potential phase 4 on hold for now while you pursue that?
Well, I was opposed to the way of distribution, money distribution through, as you know, unemployment and through the state offices, because they have very old, not all of them, but many of them have 40-year-old equipment, as I've said, and it makes it very difficult. But that's what they're looking, that's what they want to do. That's the way it's mandated to do. I thought it would be better if we did a direct payment system, but the Democrats really wanted it, and I think they had some help from a couple of people that I would have, had I spoken to them, I would have convinced them otherwise, I really believe. But it's getting out, and the federal government has done its job. All we can do is give this massive amount of money to the states, The states then are responsible to distribute it, a little bit like we're talking about here. But the money will be right on time from the federal government. Then the states have to do their job in getting it out.
Does there need to be a second round of those payments? do you think?
We could very well do a second round of direct. I would do it direct.
Is that under serious discussion
It's
right
under,
now?
it is absolutely under serious consideration.
And in terms of Chuck Schumer, he also said he spoke to your chief of staff about potentially appointing a czar to oversee the supply chain. Is that something that you
But
would
we
consider
have people
doing?
that are so talented. I know the people he suggested. They're wonderful people. They worked here. They're wonderful people. He's just doing that because it's politics. Because you know what?
person right now, Mr.
We have many, depending on what. In terms of testing, this gentleman right here. You know who the point person is? This gentleman right here. He's the one in charge of the task force. But Mike, you may want to tell him about them, because this is really a military operation.
Mr. Vice President, in terms of the supply chain.
Let me answer your
please,
first question,
please.
if I may, because it's a very good question, and I spoke to Senator Schumer night before last about just that. When the president signed a declaration of national emergency, he stood up FEMA as the lead agency implementing his policy to marshal a whole of government response. And under FEMA, we provide federal support. The state manages the healthcare response, and healthcare providers and first responders implement that response on a local level. Our lead on this issue in implementing it is Administrator Pete Gaynor. But the man managing all of the supplies, and you heard a presentation this weekend about our air bridge, what we also call the control tower. We literally, with Admiral John Polovchik at the helm of our logistics effort, we have visibility now on all the supplies that are moving across this country and into this country from around the world. It really is extraordinary. I mean, when the president tapped FEMA to lead this effort, we essentially wanted to say, we want to organize this in a military fashion. And we tapped really someone who is widely regarded as the #1 supplies and logistics military officer to do just that. He really is an extraordinary individual. Admiral Juar has known him for a long time. And to be working with Admiral Polovchik, we speak every morning. Our team reviews the data. We go over that with Administrator Gaynor and Admiral Polovchik. We talk about an extensive team that's identifying supplies around the country and around the world. And then, as we were explaining to governors today, we work with the requests that are coming in from states with a priority on the areas that are dealing with widespread outbreak, like the greater New York City area, New Jersey, Louisiana, focus on Detroit, focus on Chicago and Illinois. And then what Pete Gaynor and Admiral Polovchik are doing is directing those commercial distributors to send the resources directly to the front lines of the battle against the coronavirus. It is an extraordinary system. And as I explained to the governors today, as I've explained to congressional leaders, who've made what I think is a good faith recommendation, that we organize this in a manner of military logistics. It's exactly what President Trump has done, and it's what we're doing every single day to make sure that healthcare workers, to make sure that the states that are dealing with a widespread outbreak of coronavirus can be confident that we're going to spare no expense, leave no stone unturned, and use this extraordinary apparatus centered in FEMA to get the people of our country what they need when they need it to battle the coronavirus.
And Kristen, when Schumer makes a statement like that, he's only doing it for politics. He knows. We have the best generals, the best admirals, we have the best people. These are incredible leaders. These are vibrant people. They've done such a good job. And again, you'll get a tape of the conversation, because I'm sure some of the governors probably had their favorite reporter listening to the conversation, even though they weren't supposed to, but that's happened before. Just so you understand, we had a call today that was a beautiful call, everybody friendly, everybody happy. They also know in some cases we'll get them a little bit more, and if they need it, we'll get them a lot more depending on where this monster is going. But when Schumer does that, take a look at the past. Well, you know, you're gonna have to tell me who. They certainly don't. Well, yeah, some Democrats, because they view this as a campaign issue. They want to make Trump look as bad as they can because they want to try and win an election that they shouldn't be allowed to win, based on the fact that we have done a great job. We built the greatest economy in the world. I'll do it a second time. We got artificially stopped by a virus that nobody ever thought possible. And we've handled it, and we've built a team, and we've built an apparatus that's been unbelievable. Take a look at the swine flu, right? That's H1N1. Take a look at that. And it's not the other way around, by the way. It's H1N1. You know what I mean by that. Take a look at the swine flu. It was a disaster. 17,000 people died. The other administration, they didn't even know. It was like they didn't even know it was here. And that was peanuts compared to what we have in terms of the power, the magnitude of what we're going through. This is attacking 182 countries simultaneously. So Schumer's just all about politics. I've known him almost all of my adult life. And he's a disgrace. In many ways, he's a disgrace. And he knows it's done. He just wants to do that. But he knows the job we're doing. Everybody's amazed at the job we're doing. And the public is starting to find out. You know, one of the reasons I do these news conferences, because if I didn't, they would believe fake news. And we can't let them believe fake news. They see us up here. They see us with admirals. They see us with this talent. They see the job that Mike Pence has done, which has been an unbelievable job, an unbelievable job. I put him there. I thought he'd do well. He did great as the governor of Indiana, and I thought Mike would do well. He's done much better than well. And he gets along with people, I think, much better than I do. Because I like people being 100. Mike can put up with things that sometimes I say it's amazing that he can put up with it. But he's done an incredible job, and so has the entire team. This is a military operation. And again, we built 2,900 beds in Javits Center. We build medical centers in New York. In Chicago, we built 1,000 beds, much more now, in McCormick Place. That's their big convention hall, the equivalent of Javits Convention Hall. Big McCormick Place, fantastic place. By the way, the mayor of Chicago, at least on the phone, is extremely happy with what we're doing, thanking us, has a great relationship with Mike, thanking us. And I just wish the politicians would say to you what they say to us, really. And it's a good question. Do you have one? Yeah, please.
Yes, Mr.
And
President,
we'll get to
a national security question and then a question about Governor Cuomo. The national security front, to the extent that you can comment on this, your administration is making heavy preparations to move against the cartels in Latin America right now. And could you
said Latin America?
Yes.
Yeah.
Could you expand on the reasoning of why now? Are there supply and
Yeah.
logistics especially weak? Is it political?
Yeah.
What's the reasoning?
Good question. We've moved a tremendous number of boats and ships to the area of, different areas of exactly where you're talking about, because we're tired of drugs pouring into our country from other places. And we're tired of seeing drugs pouring into different parts of Latin America, South America, and just coming into our country. Now we've got them stopped at the border, and they're trying to do it by sea. So we stop them at the border and frankly, with the help of Mexico. Mexico right now has 27,000 soldiers on our southern border. They never had any soldiers. They're doing that because I've asked them to do it. That's the only reason they're doing it. They have 27,000 soldiers. So now they're trying to bring it in by boat and by ship, the drug lords and the people doing drugs and trying to destroy our country from inside with drugs. And we're hitting them very, very hard. And that's why we're doing it.
Activities that U.S. assets are targeting, or
Say it?
is it beyond narcotics? Are there other illicit activities that
Well,
U.S. assets are
there
targeting?
are the activities of human trafficking, and especially with respect to women. And as you know, proportionally, it's mostly women. And it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. And there's never been a time like it. And it's because of the internet. And this is all over the world. But for the most part, they're coming through, in this country, they're coming through the southern border. But we're hitting them very hard. They have tremendous illegal trafficking in women and children also, but mostly in women. And it's illegal, and it's horrible, and it's disgraceful. And I've seen things that are an absolute disgrace. and we're trying to knock them out, and we're knocking them hard. And again, I want to thank the president of Mexico because he has really stepped up to the plate. 27,000 soldiers. They've never had any soldiers on our border. And I did that because the Democrats will not approve anything to stop, because they want to have open borders. They want to have all these people flowing through our border. And in many cases, they're sick. They have problems that you don't want to know about. Or they're criminals in many cases. Not in all cases, but in many cases. And they don't want to have, they want to have open borders. They want to have sanctuary cities. So they protect criminals. And I don't want to have it. And Joe Biden does want to have that also, as you know, because he said that during numerous debates. I want to have strong borders, and I don't like protecting criminals with sanctuary cities. But we're doing it for drugs. We're doing it for human trafficking. We're doing it because you have to do it. We either have borders or we don't have a country. All right, go ahead.
Why did he
Mr. President, on the question of antibody testing, which is FDA approved now but not widely available yet, I know the Admiral said by May you expect to have millions available. How are you going to prioritize who's going to get the antibody tests, and what is that going to show you? Do you think that's going to be immunity?
I mean, I have an answer, but I'd rather have the Admiral answer that.
So let me clarify, and I know you probably understand this, is the antibody test does not tell you if you have the active virus in your nose. If you're positive for the antibody, it strongly implies, it means that you have had the virus before. And to the degree that we know of medical knowledge, you will probably, highly probably, be protected against getting the virus again in the future. So I want to make something clear. There's no antibody test approved. Okay, approved is not a word we talk about. There is a test or two that has received emergency use authorization, and many, many, many others out there that have not gone that way yet. And I want to take this opportunity to caution. There is a very consolidated effort between the FDA, CDC, NIH to validate some of the tests that are on the market right now, because it is very important that they actually do what they say they do. And we have reason to believe that not all of them are going to perform well. I don't know the primary source, but the Financial Times just reported that the UK had 17.5 million antibody tests that they bought, and none of them work. So we're not going to get in that situation. We're going to be very careful to make sure that when we tell you you're likely immune from the disease, that test really said that. Now, I will also make a statement, and there's a lot of work on here, and I'm very excited about it. As opposed to the tests for a novel virus, the antibody type tests are very sophisticated technology, but they're old technology. This we expect to have many tens of millions of tests the first month that we are really sure that the test makes sense. So this allows for surveillance screening, and Dr. Birx is one of the world experts to understand, is 1%, 5%, 20% of Americans have been infected. But it also allows us to have very widespread, tens and tens of millions of people screened with a finger prick on the spot.
By when? Just to be, by May you're saying this will happen? Or
Science doesn't run on rails, right? So we need to make sure that the FDA, the NIH, which they're actively doing right now, assure that the tests that they're testing really do perform the way they should. And if things work out the way we believe they will, we will have millions on the market by May in a sophisticated way, in a prospective way, that we get the surveillance we need. We can test people to see if they've been exposed, immune, and go back to work. And a combination of that kind of test with the current kind of tests we have now is how America opens back up.
And how do you prioritize who gets those tests? I mean, tens of million, we're a country of 300 million. How do you determine who you're going to have that test?
Well, we are having active discussions under the leadership of Dr. Birx and the task force, but you can imagine how that is, right? But with tens and tens and tens of millions of tests per month that are available, you could really do very widespread testing. But let me just give you an example.
Which nobody else can do, by the way. No other country can do.
I'll just give you one example. It would be very important to know if the virus is still circulating here, whether, for example, a healthcare worker or a long-term care nursing home worker is immune from the virus and can't carry it. Very, very important to protect our elderly in that situation, but also, if you haven't been exposed, to make sure that you really take precautions and maybe take care of the people who don't have the virus and you don't have the virus. So they're very, it's complex, but it's not complicated on how you go about looking this in different segments of society. And I don't want to take too much more time at the podium, but antibody tests are a different thing. They're coming. We're highly confident that this can be scaled very rapidly and provide us a bit of information we just don't have now.
Jeff, go ahead.
Mr. President, may I follow up on
A
what
few
you said?
more, we'll do a few more.
May I,
And then Mike is taking over, and you're gonna see some incredible work that's been done. Go ahead, please.
may I please follow up on what you said with regard to Captain Crozier before? You said
Yes.
you didn't want to punish him for having a bad day.
He had a bad day, or a bad week.
Does that
But
mean?
I don't, yeah, I'm gonna look into it, and I also think our Navy Secretary, he's a highly respected man. So sometimes that happens with people, and I'll take a look at it.
What do you mean by that? Would you consider
He had a bad
reinstating
day
him?
when he sends a letter out, and he sends copies all over the place, and it's not a classified letter. And it was very disconcerting to the families of the people on the ship, very disconcerting. So number one, they get worried and scared. It was weak. We don't want weak. But I'm going to take a look because I think he, looks to me like he's an outstanding guy. I looked at his whole, just a little while ago, I looked at his file. And people have bad days, and we'll take a look at it.
My question is, what would you consider doing for him?
Well, we'll take a look. I want to speak also to the Secretary. I also want to speak to Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper is doing a fantastic job. And we'll, maybe I can help the situation out. I mean, you guys are saying, why is the president getting involved and going? Well, I like to solve problems. It's a problem, I don't want to see men hurt, women hurt. I don't want to see people hurt unnecessarily. Maybe we can solve it easily where, it's not life-changing. But he did a bad thing, sending a letter out and many, many copies, as you know. I don't know, I heard 28 copies, I heard a lot. That's a lot of copies. Plus the letter was 5 pages long. I haven't read the letter, but I think it was 5 pages long, single-spaced. That's a lot of writing. He's the captain of a ship. He's a very important person of a very expensive ship, a nuclear-powered ship. He should be writing letters like that. But it happens. Sometimes I'll write a letter that I say, I wish I didn't send it. Not too often, but it happens.
Mr. President.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Quick follow-up on that, because the acting Navy Secretary, and I know you were asked about this, but I just want to try one more time. He did say in remarks to soldiers on the USS Roosevelt that Crozier was, quote, too naive or too stupid to be